We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Do you believe? We're not talking about it. Dovinh is next. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dive In with Dovinh with my special guest and sponsor, Daniel Dovinh of the Dovinh Group and Marketplace Sotheby's. Daniel, it is nice to finally be talking about a Seahawks victory for a change, right? It seems like it's been like 2 months or something like that. So here we are.
You see this? This is called a smile, Norm. I haven't smiled on this channel for a couple weeks. What was it? 3 weeks straight of pain and suffering. So I'm really happy that we have an opportunity to talk about a win and a very, very exciting game too at that. A lot of things happened. I'm sure we'll get into all of it, but very exciting game to rewatch highlights multiple times, just because it was nice to have so many positive things, so many crazy things all in one game.
For sure, man. It's one of those things that, the thing about football, unlike other sports, is that when you win or lose, you have to spend the entire week having to, soak it in and read about it and hear about it. And, you just don't even want to have to do with anything when it's a loss. But when you win, you want to watch every little morsel that's out there. They're talking about how great your team is now and everything. But it's just nice to be able to roll into the next game knowing, okay, we got that win. Feels good. Now let's get another one and get it going. So, you're right. It's nice to have a smile on the face for a change. And, man, what a fun game that was. Like you said, the game was just... It was probably, I was at the game. A lot of you guys saw my video. I'm not sure, Daniel, where you were watching it from, but it was just one of the most fun games I have been to in a long time, of probably this entire year. Probably the most fun game, even after beating Jacksonville. There's something, that game wasn't the satisfying win because it felt like we just dominated and that Jacksonville wasn't good. This was a game where we really had to fight back and forth. So many weird things happened, trick plays and fakes and all that kind of stuff. So it was just one of the more fun games, that I've been to in a while. Not to mention almost getting into it with a 49er fan, but some of you might have seen that. It was more of a verbal thing, but yeah, there was a moment there, and it doesn't happen very often. So just to add to that, it was that's how spicy these Seahawks 49er type games are. So, but yeah, let's get your initial thoughts. Just to remind everybody out there, I see the people up on the chat. Feel free to type away your questions or comments, and we are keeping an eye on it. So if we see anything that kind of gets our attention, we'll certainly take a look and try to address any comments or questions that catch our eye. Super chat's always recommended too, because we'll definitely see it there. But Daniel, starting with you, man. What's your kind of a summation of your observations about the team in that game?
Yeah, I was really happy to see that we continue to play physically on defense like we have the last couple of weeks. That was very encouraging. And then we also were able to play physical on offense and bounce back, especially after a lot of very uncharacteristic mistakes, right? From Adrian Peterson with the fumble. Gerald Everett had a really tough game. We gave him a lot of opportunities, kept coming back to him, and it was brutal. So it was really nice to see the resilience of the team in terms of coming back from those mistakes, especially because the first quarter there, first half was kind of like, oh no, is this going to happen again? But I love the way that we did that fake punt, at least change up something different. Pete Carroll, he actually changed up, right? He went a lot more aggressive, which we've been talking about for a few weeks now here. It was seeming like he was playing not to lose. And this game, he's like, okay, we're going to need to go for it. And it was nice that we were like, you know what, let's get 30 points and see what happens, as opposed to let's be within striking distance in the fourth quarter and see what happens. That's a very different mindset. So I love the physicality overall. I felt like Russell was healthy. I felt like we actually had a lot of plays where it was short passes, just hit your back foot and go, which had a lot of rhythm to it. And that's how we started the first drive, actually, if you remember. It was just a couple outside throws, and it wasn't really for any gains. It was more to see how's the defense going to play this, but more importantly, let's just get the ball out of Russell's hands really fast here and get him in rhythm and get our playmakers the ball on the outside and see what happens. So even though it didn't result in a lot of yards, it was still a good way to set up the game in the sense that, okay, we're not just going to run into a brick wall for 3.5 quarters and then see what happens. So those are some of my like overall takes on it. What about you there, Norb?
Well, it was very discouraging that first quarter. Like you said, that first drive, it was like, I think we went backwards. It was like a screen pass for nothing, a run for nothing, and it's something. It was a 3 and out. And I was even joking with Mark, my buddy, who was sitting next to me. He says, "Man, I believe before the drive even started, I believe we're going to score a touchdown on the opening drive." I said, "Okay, man." I said, "I'll just be happy to get a first down." And what's funny about that is we got to third down and we didn't get it. And it was like for punting formation. I was like, well, Mark, looks like neither one of us were right. Well, it turns out Mark turned out to be right because we ended up scoring on that fake punt. And we didn't even get a first down because we scored on that play. And so I was glad we got the 7 points. It was nice to see them take a chance and do something out of the box, a little bit unpredictable. And it was a beautiful thing. Travis Homer running for 73 yards. And but what was amazing, that first half, it was back and forth. And for like the first 13 or 12 minutes, nobody had a first down. It was like we scored, then it was a 3 and out for them, and then we took it and we fumbled, and then they scored 2 plays later. So it was like 7-7, and nobody had even scored a first down. It was a weird game. And then finally, then we had that one play where Bobby got the interception, but then we lost tons of yards. It became 2nd and 43. And it was just like, man, we cannot go forward. We were going constantly backwards. And it just felt like, man, this is more of the same bad movie. But then, slowly but surely, Russell started working kind of that slow passing game or short passing game and started spreading the ball around. And then we started getting the run game going a little bit. He ran a little bit. Rashad Penny stepped up and did some things. AP.
Explosive.
Yeah. It was like, okay, this is what we were, I think, all hoping to see way back when they drafted him in the first round. And then Adrian Peterson, as much as I think we were all kind of like, what was the point of that trade? He shows that he's still got some gas in the tank. May not be the AP of old, but, he still was. I saw him pushing, trying to get first downs. And, of course, he scored a rushing touchdown with breaking or tying Jim Brown's record. I think he tied it, right? Or did he break it?
I think he went into number 10 all time. I think he might have tied Jim Brown or passed him.
I think he passed it. Anyway, Chapter probably clarified. But anyway, so that was great to see that happen. But then the rest of the game was just the defense really stepped it up. They held the 49ers scoreless unbelievably at the end. And really that game shouldn't have been that close if not for those, uncharacteristic interception bobble by Gerald Everett, that should have been a touchdown. I mean, it's going to go on the score sheet as an interception, but that was a walk-in, easy touchdown. He just took his eyes off the ball. And then he fumbles on the other side, giving the 49ers a chance to catch up to the game when it should have been iced a long time ago. Either way, the defense bent like crazy, but just never snapped. And it was great to see Carlos Dunlap getting the safety sack, which tied the game up, which turned out to be huge, and then also getting the bat down at the end, which I think that pass, if not knocked down, would have been a touchdown, would have sent the game to overtime, or they could have gone for 2 and tried to win it. So a lot of big plays done by the defense, some heroic plays, a couple of interceptions, Bobby and Quandre Diggs. So, all that feel-good stuff was great, but now overshadowed. I didn't even realize it at the time because, and when you're in the stands, you don't always get all the information, but Jamal Adams got injured in that first half. Didn't even realize he wasn't out there. Ryan Neal just snuck in and took place for him, but he was in street clothes, and now we find out today that he's done for the season with damaged labrum, going to have shoulder season-ending surgery, and that's a whole other discussion about what does this mean for the team, and further darkens the value of that trade that we made back last year. But anyway, as far as the game, though, I just want to say this, is that this is the kind of game, despite the fact that we were 3-8 going to this game, and a lot of people sold their tickets. A lot of people were, tickets were taken over by San Francisco fans. I don't think I've ever seen so many rival fans in the building before. We had some loud Green Bay Packer games, but this sounded like almost like a home game for the 49ers. It was that loud. When they were, when we were on offense, it was loud, louder than I've ever heard in a long time. It was very discouraging, but at the same time, the fact that we got the win was great. But for all those people who had kind of given up and obviously mailed in their tickets and said, this team's, there's nothing to play for, just sell the tickets, make some money. Games like that, even if we don't in the end make the playoffs, it's games like that is why it's still great to support your team. Because if you sold your tickets on Sunday and didn't go to that game, that was an awesome game to go to. It was so much fun, and it felt like we won a playoff game or some kind of championship. It was that exciting. And even though it meant really nothing big in the scheme of things, it put us from 3-8 to 4-8, it felt like in the building at that moment with those many 49ers fans. And the fact that I got into a little verbal altercation with one because this dude basically we had a flag, a little mini flag that was put up on the railing in our seats, and he just came down and he ripped the thing down. So I chewed the dude out. Somebody else grabbed the flag and got it back to us. But I was pissed. It wasn't even my flag. It was our other guy's flag down the road. But I felt really offended.
Disrespectful.
So all that just added to the passion and the gravity and what made that game so meaningful at the end because of all that stuff that culminated. So for those of you who have given up and don't feel like there's any reason not to go to games, there's still reason to go to games. It can still be exciting. So you missed out if you had the chance to go, you guys. So, but yeah, that was kind of my summation of that game. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything more to it, but Jamal Adams is the dark spot to it.
Yeah. There's a few things. I feel like Adrian Peterson coming in the building, it's not an accident that all of a sudden, our running backs played a little bit more inspired. Having a Hall of Famer in there, I'm sure does a lot for you. And everyone keeps talking about how positive he is and obviously his work ethic and just, that kind of person in there. I do think was inspiring to them. That third down run was amazing. Like he could have totally stopped. And I love that, the Hawks rallied around and made that third down play. I thought that was a really good momentum play where AP had, basically his best run minus his TD, obviously. So that was one thing I wanted to point out. That play was huge. I also love seeing Tyler Lockett get a quick slant pass for first down right down the middle. That was really great to see. I like that we got, I think 8 different receivers touched the ball at one point, maybe more.
Oh, phone locked up on us. I think you're about to say Eskridge. Well, let's see, get Daniel, hopefully get his phone back, his phone connected again here. But Eskridge had a great game also, his best game so far. Getting the touchdown, a couple big plays in that game, so that was huge too. Hopefully, Daniel will be able to reconnect here. But let me just acknowledge a few people in the chat. Let's see. We got a few of you guys here. We have Vegas Eats Speaks, Royal, Chuck Norris's Pinky Finger, asking, should we give Everett another chance? Oh, yeah, I've got to. He had a bad game, but that's, everybody has a bad game. But that doesn't mean he's, he's done for the year. We got to get rid of him. J. Cameron, 181. He started the Seahawks defense in fantasy. That's how confident he is. Wow, look at that. David Grip, Drunk Squidward, believes, just like the Mariners. Royal, he says he's going to start Everett in fantasy, so he's still believing. Disney Adventure Vlogs is in here. Says Los Angeles Rams is going to be a challenge for sure. Young One AZ, got a Cardinals fan in the house, of course. B. Skrills says Seahawks should be the should beat the Texans hand over fist, he says. Drunk Squidward, Ryan Neal time. Yep, we'll see. It's going to be, one of those things that we can't take this win for granted for sure, and we've got to, continue to, as the Seahawks, as I say we, but the team has got to continue to, keep fighting and not not let off the gas. Keep fighting like a caged animal stuck in a corner and must keep battling. You know what I mean? So, David and Griff said, I need to do a part 2 of the rival video with my nemesis. We lost. What happened? Anyway, OMFG Google. Norb almost slapped a 49ers fan. If he had been not down below, separated by our railing, and had been within arm's reach, I can't argue that it's very possible I might have done something rash, because it was one of those things where just boiling. Oh, Daniel's back. No problem. Let's get him back here.
What's the last thing you heard me say?
You were just starting to talk about D. Eskridge, and I kind of continued that line of thinking, just saying it was great to see him score the touchdown, get a couple of catches in there, and you were just talking about how it was the receivers were all, he was spreading the ball out to different receivers. That's where you were.
Other positives is when we're losing like this, it's important to get the young players in there. We got 2 of our young tackles in there, Jack Curhan and big boy from Florida. And that was nice to see, Stone Forsythe in there too. Just get the young guys involved, and, Ryan Neal's going to get more playing time. Obviously that's a tough situation, but this is what we got to do now. We got to look towards the future. And we actually, there was a lot of hope. I thought Jordan Brooks played another great game. So there's a lot of bright spots, honestly, even though the season has been quite tough overall. And lastly, Norb, we won the time of possession.
Yes! For the first time in forever, they finally did it, and did it in kind of dominating fashion. I think they won it by 7 minutes. And what I say, right? I mean, how many times I've been saying this to this show for the past month or more? If we can win the time of possession battle, we're going to win the game. And sure enough, we finally win the time of possession and we win the game. So, that was awesome. That was awesome. And it felt like it. It felt like the defense didn't have to be out there all day. The offense was getting drives, and the defense helped out too by getting those interceptions. So, I mean, it all works together. But, the defense definitely made plays, and the offense. It was good to see old Russell back. How about that throw? There was 2 plays, and a lot of people were talking about the nice teardrop over the shoulder pass to Tyler Lockett in the right corner of the end zone. That was a beautiful catch, a tough one to make from the angle that he had, but that's very signature. Wilson to Lockett. But what about the one before that? I think it was on that same drive. Remember the toe tap where Lockett did his bent body like a comma as he's got his toes planted, and then he just catches it and falls forward with his toes planted in there.
Did you see the cornerback's reaction to that? He was kind of just what can I do? There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah. I was waiting to see if he'd do an incomplete, like he wasn't in bounds, so he knew. He's oh God, he got me.
Yeah, that's
too good. But that was a lot. That body form was the same as that signature play that he did against the Rams 2 years ago, I think it was, in that corner where it looked like he was scrambling, had no chance, and he just sort of looked like he just heaved it out of bounds, but Lockett came down with it with his feet down, and that looked like it was out of bounds. And you watch the replays, oh man, he got those toes in. How'd he do that? So that was great to see another one of those catches. Lockett's so good, man. He's so quiet, but he's just, he just does his business. You don't hear from him, but you see his play on the field, and it was great watching him do his thing. So just seeing those connections again, because I feel like we've been missing those special signature vintage Wilson to Lockett, just beautiful combination. So should have had more. Should have had one less interception, one more touchdown on the stat sheet.
Right.
But we know the truth. That was just a fluke fumble drop by Everett. But so Russell's got one of his best games so far this year. It's probably since game number 1, one of his best games. So it's great to see it finally, and hopefully they can continue this down the line. So I know we're gonna talk about the Texans game in a little bit, but. So Jamal Adams, what's your overall feel? I know a lot of people are just, in the chat, people were talking about, Adam, what a wasted pick, and blah blah blah. But I don't know. What's your overall feeling when you got the news?
Yeah. Well, it's tough because it's the same shoulder that he already had issues with. And I would say this, I don't fault a player like Jamal because he always throws his body around, and he's always hitting people really hard with his shoulder, and he always gives it his all. So for that, I can't fault the guy. I think the effort is always there. It's obviously super disappointing whenever you have, a player that is supposed to be one of the stalwarts of the defense, and the team, making a significant amount of money, all that. it matters, right? If you lose Bobby, you lose Dwayne Brown, you lose Russell, obviously, you lose Chris Carson. If you lose any of those top paid guys, it's supposed to hurt because they're supposed to be one of the best. At the same time, though, I'd honestly rather this happen now and him have a full off season and the rest of the season to get healthy and hit next year actually healthy. Because this year he was still recovering from his finger injuries. So I don't really care about the draft picks because they're gone already. And the truth is, even if you had the number 4 draft pick, it's still no guarantee that person is going to contribute right away, right? They might. They have a very high chance of contributing in the first, 2-3 years. But I think the Seahawks were in win now mode, and I cannot fault them for that. And we've had a history of picking in the 20s and late 20s. So when they're thinking about trading it, they thought that, those 2 first round draft picks were going to be essentially second round draft picks anyways. So I can't really fault them. I'm not super disappointed in the sense that this season is kind of lost. And then the other side of me is extremely disappointed because mathematically we're not out of it, and the NFC is kind of wonky, and they all obviously added the 7th playoff team to get in. So it's honestly we could probably get in at 9-8, but that would obviously require us to run the table, and now the chances of that probably went down 14%, lower than it was. I love Ryan Neal, but I think, you need all your best players. At the same time, though, we're getting better in other areas. And so, I don't know. It's disappointing, but it's also not the end of the world. I'm not going to sit here and cry over spilt milk about the draft picks. I would still rather have Jamal Adams than 2 college prospects, to be honest with you. So that's just me, man.
Well, looking back, I think at the time, I first was shocked when I heard about the draft and when Bradley McDougald was going. My first thought, because I liked Bradley McDougald at the time, I thought he was pretty solid, and so I was first bummed, and then I thought, oh, wait a minute, we're getting Jamal Adams. He's pretty awesome. So then I felt pretty good about it, and so I'm kind of sticking with that, hoping that this is all going to pan out. And obviously last year it was great the way they used him. He got all the broke the sack record for defensive backs and all that stuff. And then clearly they used him differently this year. But my feeling though was that I think that his to be honest, when I was shocked that he was injured, and because I didn't realize it in the second half of the game, and then when I started to think about later that I found out he was going to be gone for the season. It's strange, but I didn't feel that bummed out. It wasn't like finding out Russ was going to be gone for an extended amount of time. Maybe because there's just that part of me that thinks, well, I don't think it's his game that he's the one winning games for us. I like him out there. I like his energy. But I also like Ryan Neal. I think the way he's been playing when he's been in there he's been pretty productive. So I kind of almost think that we may not actually be set back that badly by having to deal with this absence of Jamal Adams. I think we might actually be okay. And maybe in some ways I think better. Yeah. Because there are some weaknesses that people have exploited.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. There's a little bit of a lag. My bad. I feel like it'll hurt more when we play teams with 2 really good tight ends and a good wide receiving core. Because really Jamal's in there to hit people, right? He's not really that great at pass coverage, and Ryan Neal is going to be better at pass coverage, but he's not going to knock someone on their butt. So There's a little bit of a trade-off. Obviously, it's hard to put a percentage on it, but I think maybe we'll have, 7% less thump, but I don't know how much it makes a difference in pass coverage. It might be a wash in that way. I still think, despite his issues in pass coverage, he's still objectively better than Ryan Neal. And, it'd be a really interesting stat, Norb, if someday someone could figure out WAR for football players, like wins above replacement. Because in baseball, there's just a lot more stats to it. But in football, we're not we don't have a tracker on everyone's legs, seeing how fast they're running and like how much velocity are they hitting with, like how many plays did they mess up? Like PFF is trying to get there, but we're not quite there yet the way that we are in baseball where, the defense is holding the ball and we can sit there and look at all the stats. Football is very, very different, but it would be really fascinating sometime to figure that out because, per dollar, I don't know if a safety, it's very Seattle. I'll just say that it's very Pete Carroll to pay a hard hitting safety $20 million, in this day and age of football when you're like not really allowed to hit people. So interesting old school football. Yeah.
Well, either way, we're moving forward without him because we are without his services for the remainder of the year. So we are going to be Jamal Adams-less, whether you like it or not. So whether you like the trade or not, it's done, and we are stuck with the bill of goods, bill of sale that we got. So Ryan Neal, looks like you're the next man up, and hopefully, we're going to love hearing his name because he's going to be put to the test, full bore now. So, now, it's interesting, and I know we still got to talk about the game ahead against the Texans, but, I hate to do this because it's almost like torturing myself, but of course you win, you go, what are our playoff chances, right? So I'm just kind of glancing at the NFC. It's a weird division. Now, you mentioned they added that one game. So you got the division leaders, and I'm just going to assume that those guys are all going to run away with it because they all have sizable leads. Dallas is going to win the East, the Packers are going to win the North, but Tampa Bay is going to win the South, and Arizona's going to win the West. Let them win it. Let them run away with it. And what we really need to have happen is all the in-betweens. We got to find a way for those guys to drop because all we got to do is be one of the three teams after those division leaders. It used to be only two, now it's three. And who are those teams ahead of us? Well, we got the LA Rams sitting pretty good at 8-4. And then we've got Washington football team at 6-6. And that really hurts because we should have beat those guys and we would have had one game up on them. So now we don't have a tiebreaker on those guys if it comes down to it. So Washington football team at 6-6 and Philadelphia Eagles at 6-7. Those are the teams with the records better than us. And technically the Niners at 6-6, right? After that, it's a bunch of 5-7 and 4-8 teams that are all kind of locked in with us. So if we win next week, and let's say a bunch of those 5-7 teams or 6-6 teams lose, and then so it's not that big of a jump. We just got to fill in, but I'm assuming the Rams will take one of those 3 wildcard spots. So it's down to trying to get 2 spots. So we're going to have to get ahead and find a way to leapfrog those mediocre teams, which there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. Just saying.
I hope you never gamble, and I hope if you do gamble that you lose the first time you play. Otherwise, this guy's going to be addicted. You're too optimistic, bro. Like, I'm with you. If we get down to the last game and we're 8-8 and we got a shot at, then I'm with you. Until then, I'm going to choose not to kill myself, and I'm going to choose to protect my heart. I want to win for pride and to not give the Jets like a number 4 or 5 draft pick, and for the chances that we can run it back, right? But I don't want to get my hopes up on the playoffs. I will say this though, there's a lot of parity in the league this year. There's a lot, anyone can beat anyone.
Crazy parity.
I will say that the Rams have not played well lately. The Niners have not played well lately.
The Rams won this weekend. They played well this last game, so they're back on the winning track.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
They were on a 3-game losing streak until this last week. Yeah,
you're right. But what I'm saying is like they're not exactly peaking right now. I would say I think Washington is playing pretty darn well. Like Shane just said, they lost Logan Thomas.
And the Vikings lost Thielen.
There's a lot of things that can happen from now until then, and there is a lot of parity. And our schedule is actually not that crazy. The biggest games are obviously the Rams and Cardinals. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, the Texans, we'll talk about them in a second, but That organization is garbage.
Right. Yeah. There really shouldn't be much to talk about with the Texans, because if we have to talk about much with them, well, then we're in some trouble. But really, I think it's going to come down to the Rams game, because obviously the Rams have a lot to play for, because they're still fighting to maintain their spot in the division, as well as try to even possibly catch up to the Cardinals, since they got a Monday night matchup. So we got to actually root for the Cardinals. I'm actually rooting for the Cardinals the rest of the way, because anybody they beat is going to probably help us, and there's no catching them anyway. Right. And I'm just hoping they'll have, whenever their first game comes down to it, that they'll be sorely defeated, and they'll be like, man, what happened?
Also,
we were winning this whole time.
And also they're basically University of Washington NFL. So, their whole squad, I feel like, is UW and Wazoo players. So, true. They're scouting here, and we're not. Anyway, we got Will Dissly. But check this out. So the Cardinals, we know they're the best. They have the best, record in the NFL. So I don't see that shifting. So by the time we play them at the end of the year, they're probably going to have nothing to play for. They're going to probably, I would think, rest their guys. So that, again, if it comes down to that final game, that may help us. Not that it helped us last time when they were missing two of their stars, but we're playing differently now. So really, I think if we're going to assume that we can beat the teams that are very beatable in our division, and of course we have to, because they're the ones that we're fighting for positions for. The not Lions, they're just scraping on the bottom, but Chicago, they're in that mix of teams. They're tied with us right now. We've got the Texans, who we should dispose of. So it really comes down to the Rams game. It comes down to the Rams game. That's going to be the one that could really mess up any hopes here. So, of course, can't overlook the next one, but the Rams will be the test. Right. If we could beat the Rams, then I feel like we're passing the biggest hurdle in terms of our own strong finish, and that if we can beat the Rams, there's no reason we can't win the rest of our games. So I'm just saying, I know we need help, but it is still, amazingly enough, as bad as this season's been, the fact that we still have some hope is still pretty exciting. So I'm keeping the hope alive, baby. Keeping it alive. Yeah. I think you're misinterpreting, Norb, honestly.
But I'm not gambling on it.
When Pete said we're not dead yet, he was actually talking about his coaching career. He's saying that I'm not getting fired this week. That's what he meant. He wasn't actually talking to the team. He was talking to himself. No, I'm joking. But winning solves a lot of things. So I hope we can keep it going. The Texans, they're a real mess from top to bottom. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know how you let go of DeAndre Hopkins for what they let him go for, and he didn't miss a single catch last year. And he's an absolute stud. And then it's not like Deshaun Watson was a scrub when they drafted him. He was super highly touted, super talented. I actually have his rookie card. And that's been a whole mess. Dwayne Brown said the owner is racist. There's a lot of problems with the Texans from top to bottom. And
J.J. Watt left there, and he was all Houston, Texas guy, then left last year as well. So once he left, it was that's it. The whole identity of the team. There's really nothing left for that team. So they're 2-10 record, I think, is where they're at right now.
They're trying to get some high draft picks. I'm not anticipating many issues, to be honest with you. Who I will say that I kind of regret getting rid of, though, was all of our pass rushers, including Jacob Martin. Remember Jacob Martin?
Yeah.
He's actually had a pretty solid run since he left. He's young, athletic, and not overly expensive, and he's been very productive for them, in comparison to a lot of the guys we've had recently. So it'd be nice to have 4 or 5 extra sacks a year. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, when that trade happened, I was like, oh, well, it's probably fine. But then in hindsight, for 1 year Clowney rental, that was kind of tough.
Right.
But anyway, win now mode is a little bit. It can be sketchy, as the Rams are started to feel when they started losing. They're like, oh shoot, we just mortgaged our entire future. Robert Woods is gone. Right. We have no cap space and no draft picks. So, I like where we're at better than them, to be honest.
Well,
in terms of our future.
No, in terms of the future, but yeah, the Rams are definitely a must-win now, mode. So they got it. They put all chips in. We're all in. Let's go. So we'll see. That's why I say that game, our Super Bowl, for all intents and purposes, really kind of like almost every game is practically a Super Bowl for us because it's like we're in the playoffs now. It's like we have to win every single game. And but the Rams won. That really feels like sort of our first of the Super Bowls that really matter because it's going to be the real test of where we are, and unlike, like I said, with the Cardinals game, I really think that by that time the Cardinals will have nothing to play for, and I don't think they're going to fire all weapons on that game. So that could change the dynamic of it. That's a really good point. So we have 4
let's not
games.
forget who's their backup quarterback, Norm?
Yeah, the guy killed us. He shredded us for like 300
Colt
yards.
McCoy is actually more like a shotgun grenade launcher McCoy.
Actually, you're right. Maybe that's scary. That's actually scary now that I'm thinking about how that game went. Like, maybe they should get Kyler Murray in there because we did worse when the backups in.
Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Anyway.
So the Seahawks go into Houston with, I think they're 7.5-point favorites, which is... Wow. I'm shocked we got that much because, like, Dan, did they just drink all the Kool-Aid all of a sudden after we beat the Niners and that high, or do they think that lowly of the Houston Texans? But
both.
you got any? Like I said, we're not going to dissect too much of the talent on either side, but just in terms of, I feel like it's one of those games. It's the Seahawks' game to win or lose, and it's how they play their own game. If they play the game they can, I think they're going to win it. But what do you think? We'll do our keys. What's the key to a win against the Texans?
Yeah, I think it's really, I want the offensive line to have their best game of the season. I just mentioned Jacob Martin. This is not exactly a defensive line that's going to destroy you. And I think this is a good opportunity I believe we're getting Damian Lewis back. We might be at full strength with Brandon Shell and Dwayne Brown, all that. We might be, but I still think regardless, this is a great opportunity, with AP coming back for a second week, getting more of the playbook, understanding, more of the pass protection. I want to see our offensive line and running backs string together 2 good games in a row and to make an improvement from last game. I think last game we gave up 4 sacks and probably 2.5, 3 of them were on the offensive line, 1 to 1.5 probably on Russ. And I just want to see that trend continue to play physically. So not something super quantifiable. We'll quantify like this. I want to see less than 2 sacks given up on. So that in combination with winning the time of possession again. So that I'm kind of getting to the keys of the game. So that's key number 1 and key number 2. On defense, you know what? Actually, I'm going to stick with all offensive things. I want us to win the turnover battle and not cough up the ball at all, whether or not we fall on it again or it's a tip interception. I want us to play a really clean game on offense. So no turnovers. That's not too much to ask, especially if we're running the ball well. And, the Texans are pretty darn boring overall, but particularly on offense, defense, and special teams. So I'm anticipating that we're going to win by 7 points, but the actual feel of the game is we're going to be up by like 10 to 14 the whole game, and they'll get a garbage time touchdown to make it a 7-point game. And the under will win in Vegas because that's just the way it works when they do 7.5. The Seahawks have not proved that they can beat anyone by 8 points. So I think that's a crazy line. And it's meant for suckers. So you heard it here first, y'all. We're going to win by 7 or less. And it's going to be all about the classic stuff. Win the turnover battle, win the line of scrimmage. So yeah, that's me. What about you, Norb?
Well, I'm just going to be a broken record here just because this last win proved my key is correct. And so I'm going to stick with what I've been saying the last month. And because I do believe that if Seattle plays that game and maintains these keys, they'll win every single time. So my first one is time of possession. Be equal to or better at time of possession and and pick any other two. So they have to get that and have to have one or the other. And one of those ones is either turnover battle. We just have to be one better than them, or in sacks, we've got to be one better than them. And in this last game, we won the time of possession. You know what? Actually, I'm actually realizing that I'm wrong about this, because I think the end of the game messed that up, because we ended up actually losing the time of possession. I can't believe I'm actually seeing this, because we were ahead by like 7 minutes at one point. But I'm looking at the stats here, and it says the Niners had 31-41, and we had 28-19. Am I thinking the right thing? Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Wait. This is old. This is wrong. This is wrong. Never mind. Forget it. We won the time of possession. All right? So we won the time of possession. And I think we won the turnover battle too as well. So never mind. I was reading something that's completely messing me up. All right. So we won the time of possession, and it proved my whole point right. So I think if we do the same thing, we're going to win this game. In my prediction video, I said we were going to win 35-14. That's a little too generous. I didn't know my offense at the time. So I'm going to back that down a little bit. But I'm going to still say by the same margin, we're going to win. Well, that's a 21-point margin, right? I'm going really high on this. So I'm going to back it up a touchdown. So instead of 35-14, 28-7. I think that's right. My math is correct. Yeah. 28-7. I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth or my butt or something. But yeah. So anyway, that's my prediction, that we're going to win it by a touchdown at least. That's going to be or not touchdown, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns.
We're actually going to win 22-16. It's going to be really wonky. Really wonky game.
I don't think so.
22-16.
Either
way, we win.
Yes.
Can you believe that Gerald Everett coughed up the ball in the end zone, essentially, had the helmet on the ball, and then coughed up another one, and we still won?
I know.
What in the world?
It should have been that close. And can you believe how? I'm sure he felt bad anyway, but can you imagine how bad he would have felt if we lost that game, or like it went to overtime and then we lost it? I mean, he would have been like,
you know why he feels really bad is because someone sent him $1 million in Bitcoin to throw the game. And then he tried to throw the game, and then we still won. So now he's in a buttload of hurt, because now he owes this guy $1.5 million of Bitcoin. So that's some dark stuff. We won't get into it now. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. It was just one of those. He had a bad game. He had a bad game. But yeah, so I got the correct stats here. So let me see if I can see the time possession. 33-26. So we almost 7 minutes. Like I said, I was like, what am I reading here? And then we were actually even on turnovers. But let's see,
like $1 million to $1 million.
So it was 3-3. We just talked about it personally. One guy.
I got to answer this question from Kevin real quick. Kevin, no, the coach's salary is not part of the cap. Right. Although what's weird about the football and some other sports is you can trade the coach. It's super weird. Very rare that it happens, but you could technically trade the coach and his contract for draft picks or money or whatever. It's very weird.
It is weird. And it's weird that it doesn't go against the cap. But, hey, man, that's how it is. I don't know what the sack total was in this game. Can't find the sacks, but
we gave up 4. I'm not sure
we only had
how many we got. Because we should count Carlos Dunlap's, right?
That's a sack. That was a sack and a safety. So that should count for 2 because you got points on it.
By the way, Rasheem Green, going back a game, that was awesome. When he had the
blocked.
I honestly forgot that it was 2 points. My voice is. I thought that it was going to just be 1 point because it's a 1 point play, but it's technically, is that considered a safety as well? Yeah, that's crazy. That was, I've never seen that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not considered a safety. It's just, I don't know how they score it. It's a 2 point conversion going to us because we got it the other way. But I was trying to remember back before they did the 2 point conversion, because it wasn't that way for a long time, and I can't remember what year they changed it. But if a team blocked an extra point when that was the only option, and they blocked the extra point, could they take it back and get a point, or was it just considered no good? I think it was just considered no good.
I thought it was with a field goal. It was something. I think with a field goal,
field goal. If you block it and return it, it's a touchdown.
Is that a touchdown? It's not 3? Okay.
Oh, no, not on the field goal. No. It's a field goal.
Yeah,
If the ball's live, that's a touchdown. But if it's an extra point, I think you just
I
didn't
thought
get
the
any
extra point
points.
was one before. I thought it was one before, but maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
I don't know now.
Yeah.
I really can't remember if you blocked an extra point and brought it back. I want to say that my guess is that you got nothing. That it just was a no score for the other team, for the kicking team. But I didn't think you can actually score on it. But I could be wrong.
By the way, I want to share
answer.
Along these lines of talking about rules and regulations. I got to say, my favorite thing about football is the chain link marker between the first down markers. That's still my favorite. Like, super archaic, old school. We have all this technology. We got drones flying through, like getting us awesome camera shots and like 4K cameras all up in people's grills and like
right. We got cameras on the pylons. We got cameras looking everywhere. They can see every single spot. Yeah, we got to grab that chain and go.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't miss it by that much.
And then they're like, you're not allowed to have an index card. Like, that's no longer cool. I'm like, football's hilarious.
It is. I guess it's sort of like the umpire calling the strikes. You got computers that can dial in exactly where the strike zone is, but that umpire is still using his own eyes to strike, and it's like outside by a foot. And same thing with the chains, man. It's very old school considering the technology, but someday I'm sure that'll change. Someday there won't be a chain gang. It's going to be like the entire field will be like this digital LED surface that underneath the grass there's lines and everything, and it's like laser detected, so the ball, they know exactly where the ball is at, and it's just you can see the lines and everything. That someday maybe that's what it'll look like, but for now, move the chains. That way you say move the chains. If you don't have any chains, you can't say move the chains. So
that's true.
All right, so we got our score predictions in. We got our keys to the game. We got to, of course, finish with your real estate tip of the day from, of course, my sponsor, Daniel Dovin of the Dovin Group at Marketplace Sotheby's. So what do you got, man?
Yeah, I just wanted to share some stats with y'all because there's a big perception that you should not buy or sell right now. The market is cooling off. Maybe you've heard that. Well, I will say this. There's always a winter slowdown. That is true. Because logically, right, buyers don't want to go out when it's super cold. I'm wearing a wool jacket right now. It's pretty chilly sometimes, right? And people all kind of have the same mindset going into spring. Like, oh, now's a good time to buy. Now's a good time to sell because the weather gets nicer. But the truth about the business world and the market is the lower the demand, the lower the prices, right? If you have high demand and there's not a lot of that thing, then the prices are going to go up, right? Some simple supply and demand, right? So Jamal Adams, hard-hitting safety, the Seahawks really wanted that guy. How many guys can you think of that do that? There's probably maybe 4 or 5 really good players like that in the league. And how many of them were available? Probably just him. And he was on a terrible team on the Jets. So we had to pay a premium because the Jets had us leveraged, right? They had what we needed. There's only one of him. And we had the resources to pay it. We're in win now mode, and we gave them the farm, right? Everything is negotiation. So that being said, what's going on in Seattle right now? Well, I want you all to remember the 777 right now, which is the average price point throughout all of Seattle right now is $770,000. And the average home sits on market for just 7 days. What does that mean? It means that it's pretty expensive. And it also means that although there's less homes on market and less buyers going out and looking, the homes that are coming on market, they are still being swooped up within a week on average. So the reality of the situation is tech is still growing like crazy here in Seattle. It is still technically a seller's market overall. And buyers that were fatigued in the spring, they're coming back here in the winter. So long story short, there's never a perfect time to do anything. But I will say this, if you're looking to purchase in the future, invest in the future, or sell in the future, it never hurts to start doing research now. So my encouragement to you is, home ownership and investing in real estate is always going to be better than renting, period. The numbers bear that out. Appreciation bears that out. There are a bunch of self-made millionaires throughout the United States, and a large majority of them have a big chunk of their portfolio in real estate. If you do your research on most self-made millionaires, there's a lot of real estate there. So my encouragement to you is, hey, no pressure to buy or sell right now, but I am encouraging you to do your research, know your numbers, and that's how your numbers are going to grow, is if you understand your own numbers. So let me know if you have any questions, and thanks very much for supporting Norb's channel, NorbCam, and allowing me to hop on here every week. I appreciate it. And, I love being part of this community. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Great tips as always. And, I would probably just add to that, because I know a lot of you guys are younger. There's some older folks in the audience. But a lot of you are maybe going, what does this have to do with me? I'm a kid. I don't know. This is way beyond my thing. I think when you do start making some money of your own, I would definitely encourage you to learn to start saving and investing early. Because the one thing that you have on your side is the fact that you're young is the fact that you're young. Don't wait too long to realize that the sooner you start, the more time you have for all that to grow. So the sooner you begin, when you start getting into that money, make sure you put a little bit away so that you're always letting it grow and keeping just a little bit for what you need to spend on. But have that little egg that's going to keep growing over time, and all of a sudden you look at it and go, holy cow, look at how big this got, and then next thing you know, you got a whole bunch of money waiting for you down the line. So
yeah, I'll add to this. I think Oprah Winfrey said this. She said you can't live in a mutual fund. What does that mean? Well, there's all sorts of investments you can have in your life. Whether you're like, oh, I bought this collector's car, I think it's going to be worth a lot someday, or I got a Honus Wagner baseball card, or I bought this stock, or I bought so and so thing, right? Well, real estate is the only thing you can actually live in. And that's the whole point of it, is not only will it grow and continue to have value in the future, they're not making any more land these days. And that is the basic supply and demand law, right? If there's low supply and high demand, the price will go up. And right now here in Seattle, land is at a premium. So I just want to point that out to you, that the worst thing that can happen is you have a nice home to live in, right? And it's yours. That's pretty cool. And so I'm on the journey here with you guys, and I'm experiencing this right now too. I'm in the process of buying myself. So thanks for the support, David. Appreciate you.
Yeah, David Gribbs says he looks forward to these real estate tips and says thank you for sponsoring my channel. I thank you as well, Daniel. So it's great. I'm learning a lot from you, and I hope a lot of the people watching this can learn something. And when the time is right, it may not be the time right now, maybe the time soon, maybe the time later, but at some point, I think that time comes. And then when it does come, hopefully you'll turn to Daniel and give him a buzz, because I can see he's a nice guy to talk to. So I have to say one last thing on my tips. My keys. I realize now, looking back at the stats, that we lost the sack battle and we were even on the turnover battle, but we won the time of possession. And I think I said we needed to win time of possession and one of the other two. I would just justify myself by saying we should have won the game handily, but because of that last turnover, we basically gave the ball to the Niners, who would have had a chance to beat us. If not for that heroic play by Carlos Dunlap to knock the ball down, we could have easily gone into overtime and maybe then lost the game. So that's how narrow the margin is. Yeah, I didn't exactly nail my keys, but my point is, you get those done, you won't have to sweat bullets and let the defense have to defend your goal line. We would have won going away with a 2-score game, and we'd have been like, we won, no problem, no sweat, no stress. But there you go. So I'm sticking with my keys, and that's how I'm going to say it. And I want to just add one last thing, is that the NFL, you guys messed up by flexing us into the afternoon out of prime time, because that would have been a great game on NBC Sunday Night Football, and you guys missed out. Instead, you had this boring Kansas City Denver Broncos game that was absolutely not compelling, in my opinion.
That would have been good 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Niners, Hawks are good every year.
Every year. I mean, look at it. We're terrible this year. We've been terrible, and we swept the Niners. So we're coming off of a 3-game winning streak, and we're running over everybody. So
Jimmy Garoppolo scares no one.
And I think he scares himself when he plays us because he always throws some bad picks when he plays us. We always get him for some good sacks. You can count on two things: good sacks and good interceptions when Seahawks play Garoppolo and the Niners.
I gotta know, Norb. This is just, I don't know what I'm bringing this up right now, but why don't people just copy Tom Brady? Have you seen his feet when he's in the pocket? He's bouncing. He's always ready to go, right? He's like, his eyes are shifting. Jimmy G had so much time on Sunday where he could actually just completely stop moving for a second. Like, he thought that was like snake eyes. I'm playing Foursquare here in the playground. Like, you won't know where I'm going. Like, if you have time to completely stop moving your body, you're probably not an athlete. And no, he is an athlete. But what I'm saying is, like, that's very weird. Why would you do that? Like, you don't have happy feet in the pocket and don't stand completely still. I think those are two very weird things. Russell's more of a happy feet kind of guy, but Jimmy G just does. I don't know what he's doing in there. He looks a little out of sorts sometimes.
Whatever he's doing, just keep doing it because it's working for me. Squavo's in the house, and he says he might go to the Lions game. So that's cool. We might run into each other then at the finale. That would be awesome. And then the only other thing was the gosh, what was I going to say? I had this beautiful thought, and then I think it might have just slipped my mind. Doggone old age. I was talking about the Niners. The whole thing about Garoppolo. I did a collab with CG Ruthless Sports, a 49er fan, and his buddy. Me and Sam Dog did a little thing last week. And they said the keys to the game is for Garoppolo not to throw the ball and for the Niners to keep running. So when their own fans are basically saying, just don't throw, just keep handing the ball off and we can win the game. Well, they tried to do that, and we actually stuffed it pretty good.
Mac Jones, baby. Mac Jones.
Yeah. Oh my God. What? 3 passes?
That was awesome.
3 passes.
I think it was like 2 for 3, like 16 yards and a win.
And they
That's
rushed
so
it.
awesome.
Yeah, I know. And then the Patriots beat the Bills. I mean, who does that? Nobody does that except Bill Belichick. Pretty smart dude. All right.
Thanks, Squabo.
That's it. So let's go get them. Let's go get the Texans on Sunday. Keep this win streak. Keep the dream alive. I believe in the Seahawks. We can do this, man. Don't pee on my dreams, man. We can get this thing done. Don't piss on my dreams. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Special thanks to my sponsoring guest, Daniel Dovin Group at Marketplace Sotheby's. We will see you guys on next time. I got more videos coming up this week, so keep watching. Of course, reacting to the game on Sunday, and hopefully with some continued good news. Until then, have a great rest of your week.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, baby. Woo!
Peace.